Okay, at this point, before we go on, we've modeled the four parts, and you may even come to this video if you get stuck on one of your parts. But we're gonna do just a little bit of brief troubleshooting. Number one, you have to authenticate with Fusion usually about once every couple of weeks. It's going to open up your web browser, which by default might open up Edge instead of Chrome. So you just got to get used to clicking through things. Um, and I can't demonstrate that because it's going to work differently at school than it does at home. Uh, but another thing that always or sometimes works is have you tried turning your computer on and then off again? So that's kind of a standing joke in the technology world. If you try that, it might all of a sudden start working. So let's go ahead and minimize that. And let's look at this. And one of the other problems that students will do, if we look, here's fifth period demo. Um, and you see I have my practice files and I know I built the other ones, but then here's my window block and maybe it's not in that folder. So if I open it, I believe this has changed this year, but it used to be that if it was open or in use, you couldn't move it. And sometimes that will happen. You'll get an error message, we're working on this at home. And since it was open, it might give you a message, hey, this was reserved by so and so, actually yourself. And what are you going to do with it? Since you already checked it out on another computer, you might not be able to access it here. So then I think you can still work on it because you can suspend the session and work on it here. The problem is if you don't have good file management, you're going to end up with a bunch of files not where they should be. So we're going to see if this still works. This did not used to work, but it seems to allow you to move things that are open, which usually you cannot do that with files. You got to make sure you navigate to the correct folder. Fifth period demo, practice. I can click again and click move, and it disappeared. So when I go look in practice folder, there it is. Okay. So just as a general point of reference, um, after you get your four parts built, if you are working ahead and some of your classmates are behind, watch this troubleshooting video and help your classmates. That's going to help you in the long run, even if you were able to model all four of the parts successfully. You got to learn how to troubleshoot your own files. So let's go ahead and then as a first step of doing the drawings, this is something that sometimes happens, so we'll show that at this point. So I'm going to do a new design. And best practice right away, give it a file name. Some of you had some file names that were all untitled. So remember, give it an intelligent file name. So since this is like fundamentals of dimensioning, let's call it fun dimensioning. Okay, make sure it's going in the right location. And I'll save. Okay, now, so you got your parts, and let's bring them in. So let's bring in the arch. Okay, and that looks good. We can say okay. Let's bring in the cylinder. And oh, we see it brought in a shape or something, but where is it? So we'll say okay, and oh, I cannot move that first part. Oh, there it is. Um, by default, that very first one is grounded. Okay, so if they're on top of each other, I cannot move the arch, but I can move the cylinder. So let's see. Now at this point, oh, there we go. So I could just click and drag with my mouse and place it where I can see it. Sometimes that will happen so much that the part is physically inside the other one. So if that happens, you may not even be able to physically see where it is. And this time it is totally hidden. So if it's totally hidden, you might move it. Okay, so in order to do that, we see the little anchor symbol. And by default now, the base component is grounded. Now notice how my icons are different here. Fun dimensioning, this is a dumb assembly. Notice how it looks like blocks that are stacked. And then in the next uh, icon in the browser, we see those look like little cubes. Okay, so, and they all have a link to them, which means they're tied back to these things. So, if you need to, you can always unground that one. And this is a dumb assembly. So now we also notice, those parts don't look like they're the right size. So there's a problem with one of them. Sometimes what might happen is if we open it up, like if your cylinder or something is microscopic, okay, you might open it up and check, did you remember to change your default setting into inches or millimeters? So if it was, you can always, double check that. If in fact your part was in millimeters, okay, and this one is not, but let's say it was. If it was in millimeters, this only has 2 dimensions, so I'm going to show you how to fix it and then change it back real quick. And if you don't have too many dimensions, and you can figure out what they all are. If it was millimeters, and we're going to watch, it's going to change size. I just deleted, if it was millimeters and inches, so see now, I have this really small part. If I save it, so this would be incorrect. If I save it and go back to my fundamentals of dimensioning, then I get this error symbol. And so you could bring your part in. One's really big, one's really small. I go and zoom in and I can barely find it. Guarantee you, if you made that small, you probably wouldn't be able to find it as big as we did here. So then again, we can go back to our cylinder. You can go into the change parameters or modify parameters. If you can figure it out from there, that's the quickest way. But sometimes there's too many dimensions there to figure out what's what, as we're going to see. So the other places you can change it is in the sketches. So what you should do, of course, now we're in millimeters. Let's say we built it wrong initially. There may be someone that did that. This, you do not have to rebuild the whole thing. If you build it wrong initially, let's say inches, make sure inches is the default, say OK. So now when I go back to my sketch and I edit my sketch, now since I'm in inches and it was modeled in millimeters, I can just go in and delete the mm. When I do that change, it automatically adds the units to the dimension number. Okay, so then if I look at that, we got a disk. Now to change that, then you would have to edit the feature. So we can edit the sketch in the browser. We also could have right-clicked in the design timeline or design history. But this is a feature, so we're going to have to do edit the feature. And of course, in this one, it'll be just getting rid of the millimeters. And then we see over here, it's now changed to inches. Say OK. And because I changed that, sometimes it just does some goofy things. It doesn't stick 2.25. Say OK, there it is. It doesn't like zooming in and zooming out when you're making edits using my zoom tool. So again, you go to fundamentals of dimensioning. We saw it was the wrong size. We made the change. We come back over here, and then we have these yield symbols, and that's telling you, hey, you made a change. You need to update it. So we just go ahead and click on that symbol and click save, and we're good. Since this is a dumb assembly, we're not worried about it. On this particular part, if I go look at this arch, okay, and I better save early, save often. If I look at this arch, we're going to need to open the arch. So if we open that part up and look at it, we can expand sketches in the browser. And I see right away we have the sketch is not fully constrained. So we can go in, right click, edit the sketch, and that doesn't even look like the correct numbers. for the arch. The arch is supposed to be 1.125 inches in height, and oh, that is making this thing a mess. Sometimes you can fix things by just editing the numbers. If it starts making a mess, then sometimes it's just easier to start over and make sure you follow the directions. Okay, so don't, and that's what I would tell you in this case. Let's take a look at our engineer's notebook, take a look at the dimensions. This is going to be way too hard to fix and start over. So in this case, I'd finish the sketch, I'd close the arch. I don't care, don't save. We don't always want to do this, obviously, but we're gonna, oh, the document's open, can't delete it. Let's go back on that one. I'd want to start over. Let's go back and look at that. What should we have done? I think I have my version of the arch in, no, I have it in fifth period. Is it in fifth period? No, it's in fourth period. Okay, if we go back and look at fourth period, again, just because you have a video most of the time, you also have a sketch with dimensions. So you need to pay attention to what the dimensions are as you are modeling. We're not making up our own. That's really important when you're building components for the train or the trammel toy or our pumpkin or whatever, our engineering empathy, our important projects. If it's artistic, like drawing the face on the pumpkin or the face on your emoji, then maybe, the overall size is important, but the actual dimensions of your features may not need to be fully constrained. So when we have a sketch, we want to see a lock button, okay, that tells us. And then when we are looking at the sketch in edit sketch mode, all of my lines are black. Okay, so that tells me that my sketch is fully constrained and all of my numbers match the numbers in my engineer's notebook or on my drawing that I'm trying to build from. Okay, so that's enough troubleshooting for now. I know there's a couple of intentional mistakes that we're going to come across when we are doing the drawing sheet set, which are going to come in the subsequent videos.